We are going to welcome in a new moderator for our last two sessions. Paul Miller is the morning host at WPHM from Port Huron. And Paul is here every year emphasizing the importance of this conference, not just for folks in Metro Detroit, but across the state. So we're happy to have Paul here. His first guest is going to be Lieutenant Governor Garlin Gilchrist. Lieutenant Governor is serving his 7th year as Lieutenant Governor, was chosen by Governor Whitmer to be his running mate. He's also the tallest Lieutenant Governor that we've ever had. Certainly could post up his predecessor, Lieutenant Governor Calley. So we are ecstatic to have him. I should also add about the Lieutenant Governor, he is a candidate to come after Governor Whitmer. Certainly a strong candidate both in the Democratic primary and should he advance past that in the general election. So Paul, Lieutenant Governor, I'm going to let you guys take it away here for a few minutes.
All right, Brad, thank you very much. Lieutenant Governor, great to see you again.
Thanks, Brad. Good to be here with you.
So much for us to talk about in a short time. Of all the things we're about to talk about, what's the most important to you? What's the most important issue facing Michigan in your eyes?
I mean, I've spent time talking to people all across Michigan. I've been to all 83 counties in Michigan 3 or more times. And what I hear from people is an urgent need for results on housing, on health care, especially mental health, on education, on prices and jobs. And so I think that, you know, here in at this conference with all these decision makers, we need to be about how we get more results more quickly in those areas because look, the people of Michigan, they're hungry for people who are going to make things happen. And they think they need problem solvers, they need solution builders. They don't need people who are just going to, you know, talk trash and make noise, but people who can get things done. And I think, you know, I've been the kind of leader to do that, to deliver on those issues, on housing, on helping now. I just announced yesterday something called the Housing Tax Increment Financing Tool and how it's going to help one of our home builders increase their output, the number of units they bring online, by 30% a year for the next 10 years. Because we gave them a flexible tool and a policy that can deliver housing in the places all across the state of Michigan. And so that's the kind of leadership I think we need, results-oriented, values-driven, responsive to the needs of people of Michigan. And frankly, you know, that's what engineers do. We solve problems. We fix systems that don't work for people, and that's what I'm going to do.
You mentioned housing, also health care. How quickly can we affect some change in health care?
Well, first and foremost, we have changes that we need to do everything we can to fight against. This reconciliation bill in Washington, a bill that every single Republican member of our congressional delegation voted for, guts Medicaid. I mean, we're talking about a bill that 24% of people in Michigan get their health care from it. That means pregnant women and children who are served by that program. You know, someone like John James who voted to get 182,000 people could be kicked off for their health insurance. I think that's really problematic. So we have to make sure, one, that we can try to do everything to protect that from not happening, and I hope the Senate, and I know our senators are going to do everything they can to make sure they protect people's health care. But we also have to deliver on health care solutions that we hear people of Michigan clamoring for. And in my conversations, you know, I talk to people, in every conversation they talk about mental health. They talk about wanting help for adults and children. Like, I mean, I met with the state championship high school football team, Cass Tech High School in Detroit. And when I met with these young men in the Capitol, they said to me that they were worried about their friends' mental health.
Wow.
So I'm really proud to have worked with Senator Debbie Stabenow in her last year in office to bring online in Michigan something called the Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic Program, CCBHCs. These serve people regardless of their ability to pay, regardless of whether or not they have insurance. They're like urgent care for mental health. What they do, we've opened up 40 of them across the state of Michigan, and we're scaling up our capacity in a way that, frankly, we have not in at least a generation in the state of Michigan. So when I heard about a problem, I went and found a tool to deliver a solution, and that's, I think, what problem solvers do, and that's what people of Michigan actually want.
I want to spend just a moment talking about education. Our next panel is going to be on education, but K-12 education obviously is suffering in Michigan. Why, and how can we fix it?
Well, this is something that is clear and present and urgent for me. I have school-aged children who are in Detroit public schools right now. My baby girl is finishing kindergarten. My twin 11-year-olds are finishing the 6th grade. This is not a theoretical exercise for me or the families of Michigan or, frankly, the businesses who are represented at this conference who need to have talented and credentialed Michiganders coming in the pipeline to build the businesses and economy of tomorrow. So I also know it's true that if you talk to any teacher, that teacher will tell you exactly what needs to happen for the kids in their classroom to learn how to read. What we need to do is remove the barriers that stand between those education professionals and doing the things that they know work. And also the things that force them to do things that don't. So we need to make it easier for them to pivot to the things that do. Now, we've done a lot of work over these last 6 years. Since Governor Whitmer and I have been in office, we have led the largest funding for K-12 public education in the history of the state of Michigan every single year. And this year we look to eclipse $10,000 per student. We've dealt with the inequities that were introduced by Proposal A. We closed those gaps between the districts where people are living in poverty and the districts where people are super wealthy. We've done that work. And now we're going to be laser focused on delivering better outcomes so that every parent and every household can experience what I experienced when I overheard my baby girl sound out words independently for the first time. It is the sweetest music anybody will ever play. And I want that experience for everyone in Michigan.
You mentioned earlier the House Reconciliation Bill. It has major impacts in Michigan beyond just the proposed cuts to Medicaid. What other ways will that affect the state?
I mean, look, it's cruel. It's corrupt. And I don't want to run past the fact that they want people to die faster. That is the result of taking health care from people. So we need to stand tall and strong against that, to be clear. But I'm also concerned about access to any number of services, building on top of the destruction of the DOGE cuts to things like the VA, which we have been firing people who work at the VA in Michigan. Look, my father-in-law, all right? My father-in-law voted for Donald Trump, and he gets his VA services as a Vietnam vet at the Ann Arbor VA hospital. Well, I went and stood with others who were protesting the cuts to that hospital that would let go of his doctor, who he's settled on over a number of years. So I think, there's so many Michiganders and so many important things that are at stake. And this kind of chaos and calamity and instability from Washington, it's bad for Michigan's economy. It's bad for Michigan families. It raises prices. It does nothing good for our people. And so that's why we got to fight against it.
Lieutenant Governor, we're in a prolonged period of political infighting. How do we move beyond that? How do we get two sides together at the table?
I have been really proud that, again, serving with Governor Whitmer, my record of achievement with legislation has been overwhelmingly bipartisan. I will work together to solve problems with people. Anyone who is serious about solutions is someone I'm ready to work with. And so I think we have an opportunity to come to the table and say, let's actually focus on the people of Michigan and our families and what they need to see Michigan as a place where they have a future, where they can stay and succeed. So I think we have to be focused on those goals. And once we get away from actually listening to people and instead playing politics, that's where the division comes in. But solutions are always going to come from the people. And that's why I've spent so much time with them. And that's how I learned what the priorities should be. And so I don't get caught up in the games. And it's about making clear what our priorities are, what the choices we have before us. And yeah, when something's bad, we got to call it bad. When something's dangerous, we got to call it dangerous. But when there's an opportunity, we have to step up and seize it, and that's what I'm willing to do.
As you travel around the state of Michigan, you're introducing and reintroducing yourself to Michiganders. How do you do that? What do you want people to know about you?
Well, I want them to know that my first job is husband, my second job is father before I was a public servant. But I want them to know that I'm a person who is about action and solutions and getting things done. I'm an engineer. What we do is we make systems work for people when they don't work. I learned how to solve problems, and we have a lot of complex things we have to address. But complex problems are problems that need to be broken down, and then we need to find the solutions to them. And so I want them to know that I'm a person who's willing to put in the work, who will come and sit with you and listen to you and learn from you and understand what our opportunities are. I also want them to know that I get that there are things that we are anxious about going forward. I understand that the way the technology is evolving and what artificial intelligence is going to mean for our education system and our economy, that can be intimidating to people. But I'm a software developer. I understand this technology. I understand what these companies are trying to do and what they're trying to build. And frankly, I think Michigan needs a leader who can navigate those waters alongside Michiganders, so we can make Michigan a leader in this space. We take advantage of this technology rather than this technology taking advantage of us. So I want them to know that I'm a person who's going to walk with them into that future, because my vision for the future is big enough to include all of us in the state of Michigan. I think that's a difference. Some people don't see everybody in the future or that kind of possibility, but I do, and I want everyone to know they can stay here in Michigan and succeed in Michigan, or they can come here in Michigan and grow here.
What are the biggest opportunities that the state has right now?
There are so many. I mean, I'm proud. So earlier today, for example, I announced an amazing investment from DTE and consumers to invest $3.5 billion additional dollars in their Michigan-based supply chains. That is because we have a chance to build a clean energy economy, the likes of which the Midwest and maybe America has never seen. We're the #1 state in the country for clean energy sector job growth. That's because we set an ambitious goal, and now our private sector partners are stepping up to meet it and growing those supply chains, encouraging entrepreneurs who are in the clean energy space to invest in Michigan and put their ideas into the world in Michigan. That is a huge opportunity for us to create the jobs of tomorrow, good paying jobs, and these companies that are going to grow, we're going to hire people. Setting up centers for excellence like the Freshwater Research and Innovation Center that I spearheaded the funding for at the state government level, that's going to establish in Traverse City, and is going to make the place that has 21% of the fresh water on the planet. It's going to make Michigan, however, the best to manage that water, the best at marine autonomy, the best at marine electrification, the best at fish and wildlife management. Like, we should be excellent, and we can be. These are tremendous opportunities for our state. And then the last thing is, when I graduated from the University of Michigan, I graduated degrees in computer engineering and computer science. I wanted to be a software developer. And in 2005, I thought I had to leave Michigan to pursue that career. We have invested in things like the Michigan Innovation Fund, the Economic Opportunity Fund, the Small Business Venture Capital Program. I've worked to change the reality for raising money for growing businesses in Michigan so that people with ideas know they can thrive here. And that's what we need to do even more of going forward.
Some of those clean energy projects you talked about, how do you get local communities to buy into that when they don't necessarily want a wind farm or a solar farm in their backyard?
I'll tell you the conversation I've been having with farmers all across Michigan, including farmers in Sanilac County. So we have a lot of folks who are getting a bit older, who've been farming in their land for generations, but they may have kids who are not interested in carrying that practice forward. They worry about what's going to happen with the future of their family, their business, and their farm. Well, I think what we're offering is an opportunity for folks to have an additional way to make money and build revenue on that land through a clean energy project. We provided a pathway to make that true and make it economically viable. When I've had that conversation with those farmers, they see it as maybe this is a chance to do something that can sustain this land and keep it in our family and keep building the wealth that we've been accumulating over generations. They've seen that as an exciting opportunity. So what we're doing is creating more pathways to success, prosperity, and opportunity for people in Michigan. And this clean energy future can be a part of it.
Lieutenant Governor, I know that you love a good sports analogy.
I do.
So using a sports analogy, how would you describe where Michigan is now and how we can be a winner?
Look, I used to play basketball. You're shocking. Brad joked about me being able to post up Brian Cowley. That would be really easy.
I'd love to see that.
But no, you wouldn't. but I think about we're in the NBA playoffs. So if you're a scorer in basketball, you actually don't care what the defense does. You recognize what your strengths are and what the spots are on the court, that if you get to your spot, you're going to score. That's what I think about for Michigan. We have so many assets. We have more engineers and engineering talent than any place else in the country. We have 21% of the world's fresh water. We have these amazing natural resources that we are blessed to steward. We have some of the most innovative and inventive companies in the world. We have 4 R1 research universities that are some of the best on the planet. These assets, if we can align and deploy them for the issues that matter going forward, if we can make sure that Michigan manufacturers are poised to make the things that matter going forward, if we do what we need to do, if we get to our spot, we will score and we will win as the state of Michigan. That's what I think we need to think about.
What at this conference has really energized you? What has you excited as you spend time here at the Mackinac Policy Conference?
I mean, I'm always inspired by entrepreneurs. I'm a 2-time recovering entrepreneur myself. I started and sold 2 software businesses in my career. But, since we talked about education earlier, I'm inspired by the parents who are here to advocate for strong improvements in K-12 education. because again, we have to lay this foundation for the future, for all of the career and technical education that we can fund, and we funded it to the level that no one else has in the history of the state of Michigan. More registered apprenticeships than we've had in a year. We're the #1 state for adult educational credential attainment now, certainly in our region, if not the country. But we have to have kids on a strong foundation to be able to get there, to participate in those programs. And so I'm excited about those parents bringing that sort of message to these decision makers, and I hope they listen to them.
A lot of conversation about problems, but a lot of opportunities too, aren't there?
That's right.
All right, Lieutenant Governor, thanks so much.
Thanks for
Appreciate
having
it very
me.
much.
Good to see
All
you,
right.
Paul.
You too.